Namaskara, and thank you for checking in to see my next travel video. My visit to Kedarnath was actually in 2019, well before we even knew of COVID or the pandemic, and hence you will see that the video does not have anyone wearing masks. With that disclaimer, I will move forward to describing my experience of this travel. Having visited and prayed to Lord Vishnu at Badrinath before the temples closed for winter in November of 2018, it was my prayer that I will be able to go visit Lord Shiv Bholenath in Kedarnath, which was granted to me in September 2019. It has been even more Shivji's grace that I am able to put this video together now. The plan to travel was to take a flight up to Jolly Grant Airport near Dehradun, which is the nearest airport to Kedarnath. Then take a cab at the airport to travel to Gaurikund, which is about 235 kilometers from there. Once at Gaurikund, we can go up the mountain either by walking, by a pony, by a palki, or even by a helicopter ride. September 2019 was predicted to be with lesser tourists and less rains as well as the winter was setting in. Keeping that in view, we left from Bangalore to Dehradun in September by flight. Upon reaching Dehradun, we got to know that there were rains predicted towards Chopta and Gaurikund. However, having arrived, we prayed to Shivji and left from Dehradun with a cab which we had booked at the airport. On the way, we stopped at Dehri Garhwal at Devprayag for a break, where we were able to get hot Maggi and chai to soothe our hunger. We pushed onwards from there towards Chopta. On the way, we had to halt and proceed at several places due to road works and as the road was closed. It was quite nice to see Uttarakhand drivers being so cooperative and very supportive to each other as they go ahead upwards into the mountains. They always give space and there is no fighting or yelling at any point. It's all possibly Bholenath's grace. We halted at Guptkashi for the night after having driven almost 9 hours that day. The next day morning, we woke up to heavy rains. Thinking how to get up to Sonprayag and onwards, we waited for our cab driver to pick us up. We left from Guptkashi almost at 8:30 am to reach Sonprayag. We travelled through Fata and Rampur and we reached there by about 10:30-11 am. From there, we had to hire a sumo vehicle and then get to Gaurikund. As you can see, there were a lot of rains and the streams were flowing all over the roads as well. Gaurikund is the beginning point for the Kedarnath trek. As you can see over here, there are a lot of ponies and palkis which can be taken to go up the mountain. However, we started our trek with an aim to get a few kilometers ahead and then check if we need to get a pony to help us trek up the mountain. The trek was quite difficult for us and we made slow progress towards the Rambara bridge, which we reached at about 1:30 pm. This is the Mandakini river flowing near the Rambara bridge. The Rambara village was completely washed away in 2013 floods and the bridge and the new roads were constructed post that.
I'm very happy that you're here with me virtually on my Kedarnath trip. It's been a difficult trek so far. It's been raining through the day since morning. We're halfway right now and let's see how it goes the next half. The clouds are almost forming again, so let's go ahead.
After the Rambara bridge, there were no rains and the weather cleared up a bit and it was quite pleasant. The roads were steep for walking as well as the hills had steep falls. At many places there are guardrails put in, but anyone with fear of heights should be careful and walk away from the roads. From here we headed towards Bhimbali and Linchauli and halted at both these places for rest. There are these friendly dogs one sees resting along with the ponies at Bhimbali. As we went upwards, we also passed a huge ice crater as we headed towards the base camp, which was showing the early signs of winter and we made steady progress towards Kedarnath base camp. This is just before the place where the helipad is set up. Seeing the tarpaulin covered buildings as they come into view along with the resting ponies just before the helipad area was a very welcome sight as it was getting towards dusk and getting very cold as well. As we neared the Kedarnath temple, the small settlement and the few new buildings built around the temple came into view. After the flood in 2013, most of the buildings were washed away and everything was set up afresh by the people with the help of the government. We can see that most of these places are newly constructed. As you walk towards the main place and towards the temple, you can see the Ganga Mandakini Saraswati Mata Mandir. This is a small temple which has been set up. We prayed to Ganga Mata there and we walked towards the temple. Shiv or Bholenath's temple is situated at one of the beautiful places in India. One has to actually see this place to imagine how peaceful and serene a place can be. The journey is itself the destination, and in this case it was really true as it allowed a pilgrim to experience everything from rains to bad and cold weather, flowing water, and even water turning to ice on the way up to the temple. The temple is constructed in the middle of a wide plateau surrounded by lofty snow-covered peaks. The temple was originally built in 8th century AD by Jagadguru Sri Adi Shankaracharya and stands adjacent to a site of even an earlier temple built by the Pandavas. Recently, Shankaracharya's statue was inaugurated by our Prime Minister Modi ji at the place where he had taken Samadhi. We also went behind the temple to see the big rock which had protected the temple from floods, which washed away everything else during the floods in 2013. By around 6 pm, it was a steady drizzle and we found ourselves a hotel for the night and freshened ourselves and went back to the temple for evening aarti. There were quite a lot of people who had come up the mountain by then and we had a good crowd for the evening aarti. The main priest came in and conducted the evening prayers. And then we left to roam around the temple and to soak in the snow-clad mountains and the surrounding areas. As it continued to rain, We wished good night to Bholenath with one last view of the temple from far and went back to our rooms for an early evening. Next day, we woke up by 5 am to go get Bholenath's darshan before heading towards Rishikesh. It was quite bright by 5:45 am itself, and having taken Bholenath's blessings, we headed towards the base camp area. With a little luck, we were able to get a one-way ride back on the helicopter, which was again Bholenath's grace, as it was luck that we got the two seats back to the Fata helipad area. We headed back to Rishikesh from Fata and got a good drive back on the way to Rishikesh. We reached the hotel that evening and settled into a hotel which was right next to Ganges. Sitting next to Ganga has always been a very pleasant experience. It is also said to have a very calming effect, and the waters are quite medicinal. We got up early next day to go do some yoga and have a bath in the Ganges and sit and pray to Ganga. That day, we ended our trip with the Ganga Aarti in Rishikesh and then headed home the next day. This has been one of the most highlighted trips for me as a traveler, pilgrim, and a spiritual person. While most places provide a good vibe, Kedarnath leaves you with the feeling that we are but puppets in his hand and we do as he bids. With that, signing off from this travelogue series. Hope you have had fun watching this as much as I have had making the travel as well as the video.